You really think fish go into a coma in March? Seriously? While 90% of anglers are stuck on the couch waiting for May, the other 10% are out there right now hauling in buckets of fish. Welcome to the channel. Today we're smashing the biggest myth about the early spring slump. I promise you, after this video, you're going to grab your gear, head to the water, and prove everyone wrong. We aren't just talking fishing today, we're cracking the code on early spring Crucian. Ready for the truth? Let's get it. First, let's get one thing straight. March isn't winter, but it's definitely not summer. It's that tricky transition period. Beneath the surface, there's a total revolution happening. The ice is melting and oxygen levels are rising, but that water is still bone-chilling cold. The fish are finally waking up, and their metabolism is shifting. They're hungry, but they can't handle heavy food yet, and that's the trap. Most guys try to fish in March exactly like they do in August. Same heavy gear, same buckets of chum, same massive hooks. And then they wonder why they're getting skunked. In March, these fish are a completely different breed. They're cautious, they're picky, and they're holding in very specific spots. To catch them, you have to think like a biologist and act like a sniper. Let's break down the strategy, step by step. First things first, you've got to understand water temperature. It is the absolute biggest factor out there. These fish love the heat. When the water's freezing, they aren't going to be chasing after your bait. They're trying to save energy. Every single movement costs them calories. So rule number one, stop looking for active fish. Look for warm water. Even a half-degree difference is a total game changer. Now, where does the water heat up the fastest? The shallows. Specifically anywhere with a dark bottom. Think black mud or clay. It acts like a battery, soaking up the sunlight. If the sun is out, head to the north shore. Why? Because a south wind will push all that warm surface water right towards you. It's just simple physics. Look for quiet bays tucked away from the wind, no deeper than 3 feet. That's where the fish head to soak up the sun in the afternoon. Forget the deep holes. Down there, it's still cold and dark. All the action is happening in the shallows. Next up, let's talk oxygen. Aside from temperature, it's the most important factor right now. After a long winter of struggling to breathe, fish are desperate for air, and that's exactly what the spring runoff provides. Look for places where creeks and streams flow into the lake or where snow is melting off the fields. Check for any open pockets in the ice. Crucian carp naturally gravitate toward that fresh flow, but there's a catch. Meltwater is usually pretty murky, and carp hate it when silt clogs up their gills. That's why the perfect spot is the mud line, the boundary where the muddy runoff meets the clear water. You want to cast right along that edge. The muddy water acts like a conveyor belt, washing in worms, larvae, and seeds, while the clear water provides the comfort they need. If you find a small stream flowing into a cove like this, you've hit the jackpot. The whole school will be stacked up right there, and trust me, they'll be hungry. Let's break down the gear. First, put those heavy summer rods back in the garage. March fish are incredibly finicky. They don't just strike, they mouth the bait. If they feel even a hint of resistance, they'll spit it out in a heartbeat. You need a setup as precise as a surgeon's scalpel. Now, let's talk line. Forget about the heavy stuff. Your main line should be incredibly light. And your leader, we're talking 2-pound test or even less. Yeah, it's like a spider web. And yeah, it's a pain to work with. But in that crystal clear spring water, a thick line is a total deal breaker. The fish will spot it. They'll see the bait falling unnaturally. A thin line doesn't catch the wind, which lets your bait sink slowly and look lifelike. In these conditions, that is absolutely critical. Your bobber. It's your eyes on the water. In this game, light floats are everything. We're talking 1 gram, maybe 2 at the most. If there's a breeze, go with a thin needle tip float. so you can spot even the slightest nibble. Your weighting has to be perfect. The bobber should dip the second a fish breathes on it. Don't just clump one big weight right by the hook. Space your split shots out down the line in a sequence. Your smallest one, the dropper, should be about 2 inches from the hook. When the fish picks up the bait, he shouldn't feel any resistance. If he senses that weight, he's going to spit it out instantly. Your job is to trick him. Make that bait feel completely weightless. It's a game of cat and mouse, and you've got to be the smarter one. Hooks. It's a topic that trips up a lot of anglers. I often see guys rigging up a size 10 hook with a big wad of worms, but in March, that just isn't going to cut it. This time of year, Crucian carp have small mouths and they're looking for tiny snacks. You really need to downsize to a size 16 or even an 18. I know they look microscopic. No, the trick is using a thin wire, razor-sharp hook. Thin wire is crucial because it doesn't damage your bait. You want those bloodworms to stay alive and keep wiggling. If the worm gets punctured, leaks out, and just hangs there like a limp rag, forget about it. You're not getting a bite. A smaller hook gets sucked in effortlessly. The fish won't even notice it's there. And don't worry about losing your catch. As long as your drag is set right and your rod has a good bend to it, these modern micro hooks will hold on to that fish just fine. Bait. What's for dinner? In March, Crucian carp are on a mission for protein. They're gearing up for the spawn and need all the energy they can get. Forget the bread, the corn, and the dough. Save those for May. Right now, bloodworms are king. It's their natural forage found right in the mud. And they know the scent and they know the taste. Thread on just 1 or 2. Don't go for a giant cluster. Hook them through the head so they stay active and keep wiggling. That movement drives fish absolutely crazy. If you can't find bloodworms, maggots are a solid backup, but skip the big ones. Go for the small feeder size. In cold water, a red maggot usually works better than white. And for a proven winner, try a cocktail. 1 bloodworm and 1 maggot together. It's a total classic that gets the job done every time. Worms. Can you use them? Absolutely, but there's a catch. In early spring, a whole worm is just too much. The fish will end up nibbling on it, tugging the tail, and eventually losing interest. If you're going with worms, stick to small pieces. Cut off a segment about 1/4 inch long. Hook it so the point stays exposed. That cut end releases a scent trail that travels fast, drawing fish in from a distance. It works like a high-powered attractant. Nature's best secret sauce. Try this trick when the bite slows down. Often, a tiny piece of worm is exactly what triggers a big one to strike. Let's talk ground bait. This is where 90% of anglers blow it. The golden rule for March is simple. You're there to attract the fish, not feed them. In cold water, a fish's metabolism is incredibly slow. It takes almost nothing to fill them up. If you dump a pound of heavy feed into the water, a fish will grab a couple of bites and then head off to digest for the next 3 days. Your mix needs to be lean. The foundation should actually be dirt. Plain old soil from a molehill or a bag of ground from the tackle shop. Mix your bait with that soil in a ratio of 1:3, or even 1:5. See, the dirt creates a nice cloud and carries the scent, but it has 0 nutritional value. The fish will spend hours rooting through that cloud hunting for tiny particles, but they never get full. That's what keeps them on your spot for hours. Without that soil, you're just going to overfeed them and kill the bite. Let's talk about bait scents. In the summer, we usually go for the sweet stuff, strawberry, vanilla, or honey. But in cold water, those sweet aromas just don't cut it. They come off as too harsh and unnatural. When it's cold out, spices and savory scents are where it's at. We're talking garlic, dill, coriander, or pepper. Meaty smells like shrimp, crab, or bloodworm work wonders too. Garlic, in particular, is a total secret weapon for cold water carp. But you've got to be careful with the dosage. In cold water, scents travel more slowly, but they linger longer and smell much sharper to the fish. It's always better to underdo it than to overdo it. A good tip is to just put a few drops on your hands and then rub them through the bait. Often, that's plenty. Never pour your attractants straight from the bottle into the bucket. You risk oversaturating the spot so much that the fish will steer clear of it for a mile. Let's talk about bait color. It's absolutely critical. In early spring, the water is often crystal clear before the seasonal runoff turns it murky. Against a dark lake bed, a pile of bright yellow or white bait sticks out like a neon sign. Small fish are terrified of those bright patches. To them, it's like having a target on their back for predators like pike or perch. Even larger fish will be wary of it. You want your mix to be black or dark brown. Use a specialized bait dye or just mix in some dark topsoil. Your bait needs to blend perfectly into the bottom so the fish find it by scent, not by sight. It's all about making the fish feel safe. Give them that sense of security and they'll reward you with plenty of bites. Let's talk feeding strategy. Forget about dumping a massive amount of bait right at the start. Throwing 10 orange-sized balls into the water is just going to spook every fish in the area. This time of year, you've got to be subtle. Start with just one small ball about the size of a walnut, or if you're using a feeder, keep it small. You want the splash to be as quiet as possible because the fish are incredibly skittish right now. One loud thud, and that school will move 20 feet away. It's much better to drop in a tiny bit of bait every 20 minutes to keep them interested, rather than carpet bombing the water. And if you're fishing with a bobber, you don't even need to make balls. Just toss in some loose mix to create a cloud as it sinks. That cloud will draw fish in from a long way out. Mobility is everything. In the summer, you can just kick back in your chair, bait your spot, and wait for the fish to come to you. But in March, the fish aren't really moving. If you've been sitting there for 30 minutes without a single bite, it's time to move on. Don't wait for a miracle. It's not happening. You have to go find them, move 30 feet down the bank, try a different depth, cast near some fallen timber or those reeds. This time of year, fish stay in very specific spots. You could be sitting just 3 feet away from a massive school and never even get a nibble. Staying active is the secret to success. Travel light, a folding chair, the essentials, and your rod in hand. Drill a hole or cast your line, test the water, and if nothing's biting, keep moving. If you put in the work, you'll find that school of silver. But sitting still in March, that's a losing game. Let's talk timing. Forget about those 4 a.m. wake-up calls. At the crack of dawn, the water is at its coldest after the night, and the fish just aren't moving yet. In March, the action usually doesn't heat up until midday, once the sun starts warming things up. That sweet spot between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., that's your golden window. But as soon as the sun starts to dip, the temperature drops and the bite shuts off like a light switch. Use that to your advantage. Sleep in, grab a solid breakfast, and hit the water around 10. Trust me, you won't miss a thing. If anything, you'll show up fresh and ready right when the fish are actually starting to feed. It's one of those rare cases where being a little lazy actually pays off on the water. Working the bait is key. In early spring, fish like movement, but you've got to keep it slow. If your bobber is just sitting dead in the water, give it some life. Try a tiny twitch of the rod, just an inch or two. Lift the bait slightly and let it settle back down. Slow dragging it across the bottom works wonders too. It makes the bait look like a small bug or larva crawling through the silt. Most of the time, the strike happens right as you stop moving. It triggers that natural predator instinct. The prey is getting away, so they have to grab it. Just remember, keep your movement smooth, not aggressive. Sharp jerks will spook them every time. Think of it like playing a puppet on a string. Be gentle and be subtle. Wind and chop. Most anglers hate the wind, but it's actually one of your best tools. That light ripple on the surface acts as natural camouflage. In a dead calm, fish can easily spot your silhouette or the movement of your rod, but the chop keeps you hidden. Beyond that, the wind churns the water, boosting oxygen levels and getting the fish active. The windward shore, where the breeze is blowing directly toward the bank, is often the most productive spot. It pushes surface food into the shallows and creates an undertow that stirs up the bottom. Don't be afraid of a little weather. Bundle up and fish right into the wind. That's where the biggest fish are cruising, picking off whatever the waves bring in. Reading the bottom. If you're out there feeder fishing, don't skip the most important step, mapping the floor. You want to find transitions, places where soft silt turns into a hard bottom or a shell bed. Look for a drop-off or even a small ledge. Any anomaly down there is a natural magnet. It's a hideout and a feeding station for fish. If the bottom is as flat as a table, fish won't hang around. There's nothing to hold them there. They're always looking for cover. Even a tiny dip or a small hump can be the hot spot of the day. Spend your first 30 minutes studying the terrain with a marker lead. That time will pay for itself. It's way better to spend half an hour finding the right spot and 3 hours hauling them in than to spend 4 hours staring at a motionless rod tip in the middle of nowhere. Silence. The water is cold and crystal clear, and sound travels through it instantly. A clanking bucket, loud voices, heavy footsteps on the bank. The fish hear everything. They're cautious. If they sense a threat, they might not swim far, but they will stop biting. They'll just lock up. You've got to be quiet. Don't slam your car doors. Ease your way up to the water's edge and watch your shadow. Don't let it fall over your bobber. Real stealth isn't just about wearing camo. It's about how you carry yourself. You need to blend in with nature, not be a bull in a china shop. The quieter you stay, the closer those fish will come to the bank. Landing the catch. In March, bites can be incredibly subtle. Your bobber might only dip a fraction of an inch, twitch slightly to the side, or just sit there unnaturally. Don't wait for it to fully sink or lay flat. That might never happen. Set the hook at the slightest suspicion. These fish will often take the bait, hold it, and just hover. If anything feels off, they'll spit it out instantly. Your reaction has to be lightning fast. Use a light, fast-action rod so your hook set is quick and precise. Avoid a massive, sweeping motion that could tear the fish's mouth. All it takes is a sharp, short flick of the wrist. The mental game. Don't give up. March is a grind, and it will test your resolve. You might sit for 2 hours without a single tap, watching everyone else pack up and head home. But then the switch flips, and suddenly it's game on. March fishing is a game of endurance. Trust your spot. Trust your tactics. If you've done the work, found the right structure, finessed your rig, and dialed in your bait, it's going to happen. The fish are there. You're just waiting for that window to open. Patience is a fisherman's greatest asset, and in the spring it pays off double. Last but definitely not least, let's talk safety. If you're heading out on the ice, be extremely careful. March ice is sketchy. It gets soft and honeycombed, meaning it won't give you a warning crack before it gives way. Never go out alone, and always keep your ice picks on you. If you're fishing from the bank, watch your step. The ground is slick with that constant freeze and thaw cycle. Trust me, taking a plunge into freezing water is the last thing you want. No fish is worth your life. Layer up and wear your thermals. When you're warm and comfortable, you stay sharp and you fish better. Stay safe out there and let's keep the fishing fun. All right, guys, you've now got the full game plan in your hands. March isn't the time for excuses, it's the time for strategy. Forget the myth that the fish are still hibernating. They're out there, just waiting for you. You just need to change your approach. Think finesse. Light lines, tiny hooks, live bait, and dark ground bait mixed with some dirt. And most importantly, find where that water is warming up. That's the formula for success. Try applying just 3 tips from this video on your next outing, and I guarantee you'll see a massive difference in your results. Don't be afraid to experiment. Fishing is all about finding that one key that unlocks the bite. Thanks for watching until the end. If this video helped you out, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing as the open water season kicks off. Drop a like as well. It's the best way to support the channel. Now I've got a question for you. What's the biggest fish you've ever landed in the early spring? Let me know in the comments, and let's talk trophies. I'll see you guys out on the water.